to call somebody, a paid ambulance service.
Like out of Dunkirk or Jamestown?
Yeah.
So they would have to come all the way here
Yeah.
and take me.
That's right. That's right. If they can. And then you have to say, if they're on a mission already, you have to wait. And if the weather is really bad and we're in the midst of a blizzard, you know, it's really saying you don't matter to us in rural Western New York, from Albany and the legislators, other than Assemblyman Parment and Senator Young have been absolutely fantastic, have gone to bat for us. But, you know, you have this urban mentality that just doesn't care. You know, you guys want to live out there with the cows and the vineyards, fine, but we don't want anything to do with you. And that's the attitude I'm afraid that I'm getting, and I'm really irritated by it.
All right, let's go back to the emergency room thing. Okay, so now I'll put this over to Karen. So Karen, let's just say it's a Monday morning and somebody is driving right by the hospital, but it's not a hospital anymore, it's an urgent care facility. And they start having chest pain and they go, oh God, there's Westfield Hospital, or as we used to know it. So they pull in there and they say, I think I'm having a heart attack. What will happen?
If a patient would present to the new urgent care center, they were having a heart attack, we would be forced to call an ambulance and have them transported elsewhere. So even if you got to the urgent care facility within the golden hour, there's very little under the urgent care guidelines that we could do for someone who's having a heart attack, having a stroke, or any other serious medical illness or injury. We have to just, if you will, idly stand by, provide a little bit of first aid until an ambulance arrives to transport this patient to another facility. Okay,
folks, are you getting irritated yet? Wait to hear more on this. Okay, how many people are important? Okay, when you count up what's important in life, bureaucrats will say, okay, this is how much money it costs, but it's not costing them anything. We know that, but they're still going to say the cost. And then they're going to say, well, how many people are involved? All right, are we talking about 500 people? Are we talking about 1,000 people? How many people's lives were saved last year through the emergency room?
Well, last year we saw 7,500 patients in 2008 come through the Westfield emergency room. 2,000 of those 7,500 patients had life-threatening injuries or illnesses. We spoke with the Department of Health earlier in the summer and said, you know, these 2,000 people needed to come to an emergency room and may not be able to get anywhere else. And they said, well, that's really not a big enough number. That 2,000 people isn't really considered to be a life safety issue.
Oh, jeez. What do you have to have? 10,000, 100,000? We only have like 135,000 people in the whole county.
The government, Albany just gave Queens, New York, $30 million to upgrade one of their hospitals. So they must count more than we do.
I hope those 2,000 people are listening, and one of them is maybe calling in right now. Listener, you're on the line.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
I just wanted to make a comment. I really didn't have a question, that everyone throughout Chautauqua County should be scared silly, because this entire situation affects everybody. It doesn't matter where in the county you are, because at any time you could be traveling on the expressway. If you're going down to Erie to do some shopping or visiting somebody, I think everybody needs to get mad as hell and start writing and calling and acting immediately, because this affects not only those of us that are close to the Westfield Hospital, but everyone throughout Chautauqua County, because these are your parents, your siblings, your children, that lives are at stake, because obviously Albany doesn't think that our lives are important.
That's right.
Thank you. Couldn't say it better. It's right on. This is affecting our whole entire region. We have another caller, but I want to wait 1 second on that, because I want you guys to tell us about what happened a month ago during the floods, because this is going to go right along with what our first caller just talked about, is how we're regional. Could you tell us about what happened during the floods?
Sure. On early August, there was a flood that came through part of Chautauqua County as well as into Cattaraugus County, and one of the hospitals in our region, Tri-County, had to be completely closed, and 45 patients had to be evacuated from that facility. Additionally, at one point during this 48-hour time period, we had one of the only functioning CAT scanners at Westfield Memorial Hospital for the entire county. Parts of the WCA facility were flooded. Brooks Memorial had some flood damage and was receiving patients from the closed hospital in Tri-County. And it forced people to shift from emergency room to emergency room, get diagnostic care at different facilities. And it's important when they say we don't need the emergency room, it's cases like the day of the flood, when there are major snowstorms, that people cannot access care without the emergency room in Westfield.
Okay, so there's another piece of the puzzle to all this. This is not just a local issue. We got a caller on line 2. Let's hear from you.
Well, good morning, John. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you doing?
I'm doing very good. I have a question.
Sure.
This is just thinking, but is there a possible way that could you like shut down the current hospital and basically start a new one under a slightly different name with the same facility? Basically bypassing what the Burger Commission said.
No. I like your idea and your ingenuity, and actually we've asked that question of the state. Unfortunately, to open a hospital in the state of New York, you have to have what's called Certificate of Need approval. So the state, if we did that and we closed the Westfield Hospital and reopened it as something new, the state would reject our Certificate of Need application and not allow us to open the new facility.
And I really have to add to that, in the state of New York, with all this right sizing or downsizing or wrong sizing or whatever you call it, there are probably 4 other hospitals or 5 in New York State that have 4 beds and have a 24/7 emergency room. So we're not saying that we want to be different.
Right.
We want to say we want to take care of those people. If you can imagine being in an accident in the middle of winter on the thruway or Route 20 or 5 or 86, whatever, and laying there bleeding and nobody can come and help you. That is, it's not just the emergency room, it's the whole bubble of healthcare, because you've got the emergency room, the emergency squads, and the first responders and everybody, and it just collapses.
Right. Okay, well thanks for that call. Let's hear from caller number 3. Caller 3, are you there?
If I'm 3, I'm here.
Okay.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning, John, Karen, and Helen.
Morning.
I'd like you to verify something for me.
Okay.
Let's go back to the ambulance service. All these guys are volunteers.
Mm-hmm.
And when they come to pick you up, don't they have special equipment in their rescue cars to begin treatment on someone?
Oh, absolutely. They triage you.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm not one of those guys, but folks, you want to talk to that?
You are correct that they do have special equipment loaded in each of the ambulances or rigs that would come to provide care for you. The problem is these volunteers are basic level EMT, so while they do have some equipment to help you and stabilize you to get you to a facility, they don't have the ability to do certain other things, like give you medications that could reduce the effect of whatever's happening. Many of them, they're not able to start IV fluids. So really what they can do is they can give you oxygen, they can do CPR, they have many life-saving tasks that they can perform, but they can't stabilize you for transport or give you some of the things that you need to reduce the effect of whatever illness or injury is occurring at the time.
Thank you.
Was there anything more on that?
I don't believe so, but I just want to encourage everybody in the county, especially the service area for Westfield Memorial Hospital, to get busy and start writing letters and tell those folks in Albany what it's like to be in a rural area.
Okay.
Unfortunately, they don't know the meaning of that word.
Okay, well thanks for taking the time to call in.
Thank you.
You know, that's a great segue right now. Let's talk about that. Hopefully folks are listening. Hopefully you're getting the boiled down version of it all, because we could go on for hours. I know Helen can. And but no, it's a huge issue. We're just touching the highlights. This is like the abridged or the bridge version, or bridge, or whatever you want to call it, a shortened version. But what can people do, and what are the steps that are in place right now for people to help?
Sure. What we need people to do is write to your legislators, contact your legislators. Commissioner Daines, who is the Commissioner of Health in the state of New York, Governor Patterson,